Hi, I'm Kat Bel, and today I will be showing how I created my logo and thumbnail. I like to start off by setting up guides, which just makes things easier to place in the future. As you've seen, the logo is a cat-shaped bell, and this concept comes from the channel name, which is Cat with a K, Bell with one L, which in turn comes from the first three letters of my first and last name, and basically the fact that I have a cat. Yes, so inspired. I started off with a circle since the ellipse tool is really easy to use and gets you a perfect circle every time. And then using the pen tool, which is also really easy to use, I just roughly drew out the opening part of the bell, pretty much like the accompanying photo. After that, I added more guides and finagled the general shape into the final form, making it symmetrical using the guides, adding more guides as needed along the way. Now, I really liked the shape of the opening for the bell this way. When I was Googling for inspiration on bell shapes, usually they had the openings on like either side of the bell with the like slat part in between, which kind of looked like a Pikachu face. But I'm going more for a cat look. And when I took this picture of my cat, I realized that the bell was facing the other way. And it was sort of reminiscent of how his nose looked. And so that's what I went with. And that's kind of part of design, just getting inspiration. After finishing the opening and changing the color to black, I worked on the bell's loop. And as you can see here, I just cheated and used the ellipse tool rather than making just like an arch. And then I just put the layer underneath the circle so it blocks out the part that is underneath. So I just used that twice. And so the one that stays black is basically the opening, while the one that I just placed and have now changed to white is the actual loop part. So it has that look like it has an opening, even though it's just two ellipses together. I used the pen tool again for the ears, just starting off with a triangle and then adding more sections to get it into that nice cat ear shape. And that it actually took a while to get it to where I liked. And I'll spare you all the finagling, but it did take a while. Once I did get the shape that I wanted, I really just copy and pasted it so that I can get the ears even. So it's not exactly cheating, it's just one method. That's what I'm gonna call it. And I just used the reflect in the transforming menu to flip it, and then use the guides to place it to make it even. And there's the basic cat bell. Finally, for some color, I decided to start off by picking 3 different yellow gold colors to see which looked better. And I, of course, forgot to unlock my layers, which I lock just to make sure I don't accidentally move something from a layer I didn't want to when I'm drawing more things. And so this did actually take a while, just because I forgot to unlock everything. So these were the 3 colors I was starting with. And I eventually ended up with just like that marigold color, which was the first one I picked. And so I just changed everything to that marigoldy color using the eyedropper tool. There's the finished Kat Bel. For the rest of the logo, I added the white circle with a black outline, and I dropped more guides, of course, just to make sure everything's symmetrical and even. And then using the pen tool, I went in to begin creating the collar. So I always like to start off by just doing straight lines and then adding the curves in later. That's just kind of my process because it just makes it easier for me to visualize, just having it straight and then just moving the curve together. And for the collar, I ended up going with a blue, just because right now my cat's collar is blue. My favorite color is purple, which was his old collar, but when I was getting him his new one, they didn't have any in purple, which was just devastating, but blue's okay too. Blue's fine. It's a nice color. And I don't show it here, but the creates is just text on a path. And I just picked a kind of fun font. Just a little bit of a chunky font to make it fun. It's Gill Sans Extra Bold. The final touch, minus the text that I forgot to record entirely, is the metal bit that connects the bell to the collar. And to make that, I just used the pen tool again. And basically I just messed around with this kind of hook shape until it was what I wanted. The idea is basically to make it look like it's going through the loop and then around the collar. Now you can't really see much now because I didn't have the layers in the right order. So it's behind the loop and it's the same color as the collar. So it's kind of blending in right now. But it's kind of my process to get shapes down first and then to mess with the color and then the layer to make sure it's on the right, in the right order. So the hook shape at the end gives it the impression that it's going around the collar. And then once it's in front of the loop layer, it'll look like it's going through the loop and then around the collar. At least that's what it looks like to me. Not sure if it really gives that look, but it's basically the attempts. So here's where I change it to that gold color and then finally switch the layers around. And then you can see how it gives that look. As for the thumbnail, I have a plain blue background and the logo centered. The logo is smaller to accommodate the text on top and bottom, as well as some sort of background image, as we saw with the spiked pancakes, with the cat-shaped pancake fitting perfectly behind the logo. And the text is the same yellow from the bell and has a blue stroke added, which I changed to black for better contrast here. It is also the same font that Gill Sans Extra Bold, just to stay on brand. And I had just copied the text from Spiked Pancakes. As you can see, it still says that. So I'm just going to go ahead and change it to the new title, which is Branding Design. The name of the channel, as discussed, comes from the first 3 letters of my first and last name and the fact that I'm creating stuff. The logo comes from what the name Kat Bel sounds like and the fact I have a cat. And that's pretty much the brand. This looked a little plain, so I added my fish heart background, which is just my version of this one from gograph.com. I had an art class that required iterations of something that brought joy during the pandemic, and I had chosen my cat. I did not like this orange background at all, and I really didn't like that I had 2 different size hearts, and the paws did not spark joy. So I decided to just make my own, and this is the art piece that I made for class. It is a trace of my cat's paw with the toe beans designed to look like coffee beans. And yes, he does have like variegated toe beans where it's like half pink, half brown. And I made that pink fish heart background, which I just changed to blue for Kat Bel Creates since the blue collar, kind of just to stay on brand. And I did change the stroke color back to blue since it no longer needs that contrast between the blue of the stroke and the blue of the background. And that's the end of the video. See you next week. Bye!